What's good, y'all? Welcome to my review for Fast 9. Bruh. This movie was fucking insanity. Absolute batshit craziness. Like, the movie is legitimately fucking absurd. This is a cartoon. The Fast and Furious series have become a fucking cartoon. Like, the action set pieces from the trailer were just fucking absurd. And the movie itself is also absurd. Not as absurd as I thought it was, which will go a little bit more in depth in the review, but it wasn't as absurd as I thought it was going to be from the trailers, but this movie is fucking absurd. I would say this is probably the most absurd of any of the Fast and Furious films, Hobbs and Shaw included. But yeah, man, let's just jump right in. So the movie is once again directed by Justin Lin, who has done a bunch of other Fast films. I believe he did 5, 6, and Tokyo Drift. He might have done a couple more, but I think he did Tokyo Drift and a couple of others. But of course stars Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Charlize Theron, Ludacris, and John Cena! No, I will never stop using that meme. I will always keep using every time I review a movie with John Cena because he's my favorite wrestler. But yeah, my man John Cena's in it, and the plot is basically Dom and Letty, they've like gone off the grid. They're living with their son. They're living the quiet life, trying to be like Brian, who also went this Sunset back in Furious. But of course, like always, they're brought right back in with of course his brother Jacob coming into the scene. So, where the fuck do I begin with this film? This thing, like I said before, this was absolute batshit lunacy. First off, okay, the cast is great, of course. Vin Diesel's great, Michelle Rodriguez is great, Tyrese Gibson's fantastic. The whole cast, including my man John Cena, he was awesome as well. I love John Cena as well. He was fantastic throughout. The soundtrack once again fucking slaps. I'll probably be having a couple of the songs playing in the background of this video, but yeah, man. But besides all that, this movie is absolutely just like the action set pieces, which are, I will say, they're entertaining as hell, and I was thoroughly entertained. But my God, has logic, reasoning, physics, everything has gone completely out the window. Like, you can say how the Fast movies with recent memory have all kind of teetered more towards absurdity. You have Fast 5. You have Fast 6. You had Furious 7 with them jumping from building to building to building, and fucking Vin Diesel causing earthquakes and shit. The Rock falling from like a 5-story building with minimal injuries and breaking the cast like it's nothing. These movies have been absurd. Daisy chaining Jeeps together in Hobbs and Shaw. We know how ludicrous these movies have gone. But they've always at least been in somewhat realism. It hasn't been so ridiculous where you're like, this is just fucking absurdity. Fast 9 is fucking absurdity. Like, bruh, you got the fucking magnets, they go into fucking orbit, which was shown off in the fucking trailers. I thought they were gonna save space for the 10th film, but maybe for the 10th film they'll go all the way into space, and that's what they're gonna do. I don't know, but we got them going into fucking orbit. You got fucking Tyrese out here fucking dodging fucking tanks from crashing him. You got The Rock and not The Rock, Vin Diesel and John Cena fighting, like, falling off a fucking bridge onto a fucking, like, bus or something. You got him getting hit with a door frame that he doesn't get it, and he somehow just shakes it off. No concussion sickness and nothing. This movie, like I mentioned before, the fucking magnets. Like, and of course an old woman in their 80s out there driving a fucking sports car in London. This movie is fucking absurdity. It is truly absurdity. And I think I know, and the reason probably for that is probably kind of obvious. Because Chris Morgan, who has done the screenplay for a bunch of the films he did, I want to say he did Tokyo Drift up to Fate the Furious, including Hobbs and Shaw. But this film they had a different screenwriter write this one. And I think that's why, because at this point, Fast 9 is a fucking parody of the Fast and Furious franchise, with just how absurd it gets with the action set pieces, man. Like I said before, there is so much crazy shit going on with the fucking magnets and shit. It's absurd. Like I said, this is a parody of the Fast and Furious films at this point. This is what Fast 9 is. And it's probably because Chris Morgan wasn't writing it, which, say what you will about the Fast and Furious films, they all, like I said before, they always somewhat manage to not go too much in absurdity and not complete absolute, insanity. like I said, this one definitely getting, and you can also tell it with the more serious film, because like I said before at the start of the video, this movie was not as absurd as I originally thought it was gonna be. Judging from the trailers, it's the tone, I would say, is about what you expect from the Fast and Furious films, but I wouldn't say I was nearly invested into this film as I was previous Fast and Furious films, just because of how absurd it was. Like, I feel like I was definitely more invested in Hobbs and Shaw and its plot. I would definitely probably say I was more invested into the plots of Furious 7, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6. Like, I was invested, don't get me wrong, I was invested in this film from start to finish, and I would say the serious moments were overall really good, as we kind of learned the backstory of Dom and Jacob's relationship. We actually see Dom back when he was like a teenager around the start of the film, that was actually pretty cool. It was really cool to finally see Dom's like origin and more of like his backstory, because I don't think we've ever seen anything of Dom before the first Fast and Furious, at least in terms of his backstory and what he was doing beforehand. They might have mentioned some shit from like maybe the first couple of films, but I haven't seen any of the Fast and Furious films, especially the early ones, in probably over a decade. That was the last time I probably saw any of the early Fast and Furious films. So they might have mentioned it there, but I did really enjoy those sections of the film. And the actors they got playing the younger versions of these characters, they both of them did a great job. But I would say I was definitely, they didn't hit as hard as they probably wanted them to, just because, like I said, of just how absurd this film gets. And so that was definitely probably something you could say I had a problem with. It's just this movie gets so absurd that the serious moments just don't hit as well as they did in earlier films. But besides that, man, like I said before, the action is just absolute insanity. There is also another thing I was kind of iffy on, but that one is definitely a spoiler, so I won't go into that one. I'll do a little bit of spoiler discussion at the end of the video, just so I can talk about a couple of other things. But yeah, besides the serious moments not hitting as hard as they probably wanted to, this is an entertaining, fucking turn your brain off and just shove your face full of popcorn movie. This is entertainment, man, and if you're a fan of the Fast and Furious films, you're gonna love this film. It's fucking awesome. Just go in there expecting fucking lunacy. Absolute fucking lunacy, man. And honestly, the ending I thought was awesome. And also, for all you Tokyo Drift fans out there, there's some good shit for y'all besides Han's return, which was cool seeing Han back, and he was great in the film from what we saw of him. And so yeah, that was pretty cool. And there's also a mid-credit scene, I should say rather, that's also really fun. But that obviously sets up for the next film, which I believe Vin Diesel said is going to be the last one. Fast 10 is where the series is ending. So we'll have to wait and see on that, see if that happens, or we'll just get more spin-offs with like Hobbs and Shaw and John Cena and shit. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I'm no lie, with how great the ending was and the post-credit scene, I was honestly tempted to give this movie a fucking 10. I was honestly tempted because I had a blast watching this film with all of its absurdity, and of course you also got Tyrese going in there being like, "Yo, fam, I think we might be invincible," and it kind of gets a little like it just kind of starts to lose me a bit, man. It's like, okay, nah. But besides all that, fam, like I said before, this is an entertaining thrill ride, and overall, I am going to give Fast 9 a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said before, this film was fucking awesome, man. And I was thoroughly entertained from start to finish. If you're fans of Fast and Furious films, you're gonna like this one, man. So, let me quickly go into some spoiler discussions just so we can talk about a couple other things that I want to talk about, and mostly the other thing that I kind of have a problem with, because I don't know what this is going to be leading to, if this will lead to anything, but I'm kind of iffy on it. But besides that, guys, if you guys don't, of course, don't want to get spoilers or anything, of course, you guys can bounce now. For everyone else, let's continue. So, they kind of like, in a sense, bring back Brian in a way. Like, they don't straight up say like, oh, they don't have like fucking CGI, Paul Walker back like they did the end of Furious 7. But they do somewhat allude to him still being around. Like his wife Mia, of course, comes in later on in the film, and she has a role later on. They mention that he's looking over their kids, and I'm like, yeah, sure, Brian's watching the kids. Motherfucking Paul Walker's dead, But at the end of the film, you see his blue car. Once everyone gets, comes together, family, we're about to say grace and shit. His car pulls up into the driveway because Vin Diesel said there's an empty seat. Now, no one comes out there. They cut basically to the credits right as he parks. But Now, this could have just been them kind of saying that yes, Paul, kind of, you know, keeping Brian into the franchise and you know, just saying like yes, he's still around, and you know, just like, you know, a couple of references towards him, and that's it. But I felt like this was kind of unnecessary because with how great the tribute they did at the end of Furious 7 was, I'm sure like most of us, they just would have just dropped him. We would have never seen him. There would have been they wouldn't have alluded to him outside that one scene from Fate of the Furious, and we would never hear of him again. Now, like I said, they could have just done this just to remind fans, to show them like, hey, he's still around, he is still a part of this franchise, and maybe to tuck on those heartstrings, like, yeah, he's still a part of this. But I don't know if this was like, I'm kind of iffy on this because like with how great that was, this feels unnecessary. And this also begs the question, are they going to bring him back? Are they going to like recast Paul Walker or bring back his brother, whoever he was, and CGI his face back on there and continue on? I doubt it. I doubt they would go that far. They would go in that route, but you know, like it wasn't terrible, and it was just like a couple times throughout the film, like 2 scenes like I said before, but it just felt a little necessary. The post-credit scene I love because you actually have Jason Statham making his return, and actually he opens the door after he's beat up some guy in a fucking punching bag. I think it might have been the rich guy that we see that's like the villain throughout most of the film, who is whatever. He's kind of the typical rich guy. He was pretty good. And Charlize Theron, she was also pretty good for a couple times we got to see her. But so I don't know if it was him or just some other random guy, but anyway, he opens the door and there's Han on the other end, on the other side of the door, and that's when they just cut to the credits. So that's pretty cool, and I'm curious to see where that's going to lead, probably into Fast 10, whenever that comes out. But the one thing that was surprising, the cool thing I thought was really cool, is that we actually see the main guy from Tokyo Drift actually make an appearance. Now I don't know if it was in the trailer or not, but I did not actually recognize him when he showed up earlier because of the beard. I did not recognize, but it wasn't until I heard his voice, and then Hans, of course, shows up and they hug it out. I was like, yo, that's the MC from Tokyo Drift. He's back in the franchise. Yo, that's fucking cool. Then they actually finally got some more love for Tokyo Drift, which is they like completely forgotten about. I feel like Tokyo Drift has been completely forgotten about the Fast and Furious franchise, other than Hans, because it's like so different and like none of the main characters were in it. So that was pretty cool to actually see to finally see Tokyo Drift being brought back into the fold. You see the MC from that film coming in there, and you see him and Hans hugging it out. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. And when I saw that, and of course the post crazy, that's when I was like, yo, I might give this movie a fucking 10 on just for that. And also, one other thing that's fucking hilarious is that this has probably the greatest, the cleverest Star Wars reference I've ever seen, where we actually have where Charlize Theron is like talking with the rich guy, and the dude's like, fam, he's like, I'm Luke Skywalker, bitch, and she's like, no, you're Yoda. And the dude thinks when he says Yoda, he's thinking, oh yeah, because I'm smart, because Yoda's like, you know, this badass Jedi, he's one of the most powerful Jedis out there, and he's smart and old and shit. But no, she says, because Yoda's a puppet, with a hand right up his ass, because Yoda was a puppet in the original films. That was, when I saw that, I was like, that is fucking brilliant. That has to be one of the most brilliant Star Wars references I've ever seen. First of all, I don't know how they got away with all these Star Wars references without Disney knocking on Universal's door, but I digress. And then you actually, one other one that I thought was fucking hilarious is after you have fucking Tyrese and Ludacris out in space. Fully out in space. Like I said before, I was kind of surprised they went all out in space. Like I thought they were going to save that shit for the 10th film, but like I said, they might have the whole 10th film just take place in space. We'll have to wait and see on that in the coming, you know, weeks and whatever when they really announce it. But anyway, after they go in there, you have like this little space shuttle that finds their ship. And there's this one chick who I think was speaking Japanese. I don't know, it sounded like Japanese, it might have been some other Asian language. But she says, oh, they look like minions, which led me dying because Japan has this weird thing with minions, which some of you guys may know about if you guys watch Trash Taste, the anime podcast, because when Joey and Aki moved to their new place, the movie company gave them like this mini fridge of a minion. And Joey's been trying to get rid of this thing ever since he got it, while Aki wants to keep it. So it just reminded me back to that, and I was just laughing my ass off when I saw that. So yeah, man, that's all I gotta say about Fast 9. Like I said, it was a fantastic film. Thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. And anyway, that's what we're going to do this video off. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like, if you did, subscribe if you're new. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you like it. Link sounds description box below. And as always, come back for more. See you guys next time.